Hey, it's the end of the week and we made it. And I'm here to ask the question, do we really need a twin sequel? The Hawkeye trailer got me really super pumped for the holidays. Hulu introduces Why the Last Man in season 2 of Wu-Tang, Wu-Tang. And what is the deal with the Met Gala? All that and Tom and Jerry, let me know in the comments who your favorite character is. It's the Talking Talk Podshowcast coming at ya now. Going on, ladies and lads, it is another episode 4 of the Talking Talk Podshowcast, your weekly unofficial pop culture podcast show where I talk about the big topics from this week. I am your gracious host, Renee Z. Happy to be back with you for another week and another episode here. Hope all of you had a great week and you are all gearing up to relax this weekend. It's been, for the most part, at least in movie news, kind of uneventful, but certain things came about that I would love to discuss with you guys. And of course, as always, I encourage you and invite you to share your feedback and post your comments in the comment section. If you are new to the channel or you just happen to be swinging on by and saying, what the hell is this podcast thing about? Thank you for joining in and thank you for listening. As always, the best way to show your support if you like what you see and hear is to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already on YouTube. If you are listening on your podcast platform of choice, throw a fella a follow. And if you're on iTunes, make sure to leave a nice rating for your boy right here. Just wanted to get all that stuff out of the way as always. And for those of you who are returning, once again, I appreciate all the support. And something I mentioned in the last episode too, I know there are quite a few of you who watch and listen and I never hear from you. So I just want to let you know that I appreciate all of you as well. You don't always have to say anything, but hopefully I am bringing you some form of entertainment, and that's why you have chosen to subscribe, watch, listen, like, and do all those nice things. So the week started off kind of interesting. Again, I have to remind myself of my age and, wondering how relevant the VMAs are. I know the Video Music Awards that are on MTV aired on Sunday. Again, I'm sure you've heard several people talk about this already, but how is this award show even relevant these days? I wonder. I mean, you have a cable channel that no longer airs music videos, and a generation who probably knows MTV only for the reality shows and what have you. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I went on MTV to watch anything. So every year I always forget that they still do this program. And when I heard about it, I was like, wow, really? I am shocked that they still have that. And I'm shocked that people still talk about it. And again, reminding myself of how disconnected I am with the music these days. 95% of the people I heard that were involved in this show, I knew nothing about. I don't know anyone. All I saw on Twitter that fascinated me was Doja Cat was wearing a chair on her head or something. But yeah, it is really fascinating how a program like that can still survive in this day and age. And then Monday rolls around and we get hit with another event that happens every year here in New York. And I'll start off by saying this. I have 2 bucket list items on my entertainment category list that I would love to, before I kick the bucket, somehow find my way into them or find my way attached or involved in some capacity. One, I would love to attend the Oscars one year. I mean, to be there just with the Hollywood elite. If I can't attend the ceremony, at least allow me to crash the after party. I think it would be fascinating, especially since I am such a movie buff. For me, that would be a pinnacle in my love of Hollywood movies and what have you. And number two, just for morbid curiosity, it is to attend the Met Gala. The Met Gala is this fascinating event that outlets like Vogue and People cover because celebrities of all walks show up in these really fancy doodads that designers purposely hook them up with so that they can get recognition and what have you. But this year in particular, I just could not peel my eyes away from all the photos because some of the costumes and outfits were outrageous, really, really outrageous. And for the longest time, I don't know why it took me so long to even look into it, but I never really understood what the purpose of the Met Gala was. So I decided to finally look it up, and I know it's so easy. I could have looked this up years ago or what have you, but for some of you who may not be aware of what the Met Gala is, here is a brief explanation. The Met Gala, formerly called the Costume Institute Gala or the Costume Institute Benefit, and also known as the Met Ball. So when I was growing up, I used to hear it referred to as the Met Ball. It's an annual fundraising gala for the benefit of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute in New York City. And usually this is what kicks off the annual fashion exhibit that they have there. And if you've ever had a chance to be in New York and go to the Met to check out any of their costume exhibits, they're really fascinating. And sometimes they have a lot of themed exhibits. So I remember going there several times, checking out popular outfits from musicians, popular outfits from certain movies or eras in history. They do a really good job at really curating these exhibits, and it's really fascinating to see such outfits that you may have seen celebrities wear in your favorite movie, or performers wearing them in concerts or special performances or what have you. To dive deeper in as to who's involved or how do people get to attend, first of all, you have to be invited. And then once you're invited, if you want to go and partake, you have to pay $30,000 for your ticket. $30,000. Now, of course, a lot of celebrities would attend because this is a great tax write-off for them, right? But then, if you want to peacock around, you could hook yourself up with a fashion designer, whether it's Versace, Gucci, Vera Wang, or, all these other ones, or even independent fashion designers who just want to put their names out there, and then you will be photographed to death. And I believe there's a cocktail portion of the gala, and there is also, I believe, food, served at such event. But that is pretty much the gist of it. And like I said, some of the costumes that were featured this year were outrageous. And someone on Twitter said it best, where it's basically the Hollywood Elites Comic-Con, because some of the outfits look like they're trying to be some form of superhero character, anime character, movie character, or what have you. The one that really stood out the most and I thought was extremely ridiculous is Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian shows up in an all black cover up, where basically she's covered head to toe and she has a long train behind her, and she literally looks like some creature from Silent Hill. I don't know what the costume is really supposed to represent. I know there is a meaning behind it. Maybe it's supposed to represent her years with Kanye West or what have you, but it just looked really eerie and spooky. And I was just like, what's the deal with that nonsense? I mean, it's, and then AOC showed up with her Tax the Rich outfit, which I thought was pretty smart. It looks like she was taking a page out of Cruella, the movie with Emma Stone that debuted this year. But going to that, with such a movie that really focused a lot on these outlandish outfits and dresses, I'm a little disappointed that no one had some of that flair that Cruella had or Emma Stone had in that movie. I mean, why can't someone show up in a garbage truck and then just unflail their outfit in front of people, or take a match and then light themselves up on fire, and then all of a sudden it dissolves into another kind of costume? Like, where is the creativity there? I mean, have we not gotten to that point yet? I know, call me crazy, you don't want to have a fire hazard walking into such an event, but come on, guys, for next year, let's step it up a notch. You know what? If you are willing to invite me to such an event, I will do something crazy like that. Whatever it takes, just to say, hey, look at me. I finally made it to the Met Gala. You could scratch that off of my bucket list. And hopefully I won't burn myself to death or what have you. But as I'm speaking, if you're watching on YouTube, I will flash some photos of some of the more outrageous outfits, including Kim Kardashian's. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some who looked really fabulous. I mean, looked really elegant and, looked really, really well put together. Simu Liu, the star of Shang-Chi, looked amazing in his white suit there, and some other people really looked really fascinating. But we're not focusing on the good looking people, we're focusing on the absurd, and I hope you enjoy some of those images there. Now, for you audio listeners, I know you won't be able to get to see any of this, but if you feel like hopping onto the YouTube channel and checking out this portion of the show, you could see some of those costumes yourself, or just go to Vogue. Vogue.com has a huge listing and photo gallery of all the celebrities and all of their outfits that they wore, and believe me, you will not be disappointed with what you see, and you would probably get a good kick out of things there. So, but like I mentioned at the top before the show started, and as the thumbnail dictated, and probably what the title is going to say, the Hawkeye trailer debuted earlier this week, and I saw some negative feedback on Twitter and some YouTubers who were saying that they were kind of underwhelmed with this trailer. I'm excited. I'm super, super excited. One, because, okay, maybe I'm a little biased. Look, Hawkeye is one of my favorite Marvel characters out there. And I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why. Well, for the most part, he's an everyday guy, and I kind of root for the underdogs like that, especially when you have a chance to team up with the likes of Thor and Iron Man and Captain Marvel or what have you. But I have a thing for archery. If you look at some of the characters that I really are fond of in pop culture and fantasy literature or superheroes or what have you, there's a common theme. I am a huge fan of Legolas from The Lord of the Rings. Hunger Games I thought was really fascinating because Katniss there is really great with a bow and arrow, and then you have Hawkeye, and in the DC world, I'm a huge Green Arrow fan. When the CW show Green Arrow came out, I was all over it. And I watched at least the first 4 or 5 seasons before it became really ridiculous to watch for me. But Hawkeye, he has a plethora of arrows that can do so many different things. And it plays out really well in the comic books. I mean, you could run with your imagination as to what he can do with his arrows and all that. And then when he finally appeared in live action form in the MCU, I was super excited, but also a little disappointed because I did feel like he was very underused. But that's understandable because, one, he doesn't have these extreme superpowers. He can't Hulk out like the Hulk does. And he's not super genius like Tony Stark, and he doesn't have the super soldier serum in him like Captain America does, but still he holds his own, and he serves a purpose, and there's a reason why Nick Fury always wants him by his side, right? Along with Natasha Black Widow, who also doesn't have super extreme powers or what have you, but she's very good at hand-to-hand combat, and she's very good at espionage and all that. So I've always been waiting for a moment where Clint Barton can really shine, and we are finally getting a show dedicated to Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, who is also a main character from the comics. And if you've read some of the more recent comics for Hawkeye, you would come across the series, the run by Matt Fraction, Hawkeye series. I believe his first run was called My Life as a Weapon. And the one thing I really loved about this run was that it felt and played out more like a Bond movie. And you really got to see more of Hawkeye and how he handles what he has to handle and all that. And then you get to also learn more about Kate Bishop, who later on joins alongside it with him. So when I saw the trailer, it looks like they are kind of sticking to that, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it threw a lot of people off because of the cheerfulness and the comedy that was really displayed, and they're really playing hard on the fun and enjoyment that this series could hold, with the whole holiday theme there. It does really ring a lot like Die Hard or True Lies. It looks like you have Clint, who is trying to figure out who Kate Bishop is and helping her out and what have you, while still lying to his family as to his whereabouts, as they're running around New York City. So I think this is going to be a fun series. And let's face it, this will be the 5th Marvel show on Disney Plus for this year. You had WandaVision, then you had Captain America and the Winter Soldier, then you had Loki, What If, and then Hawkeye. It looks like that's what's going to close out the year for the Disney Plus shows. And each one of them had their purpose and had their brilliant moments. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of people really have enjoyed a lot of these series and shows so far. So I don't think this will be any different from that. It's just going to be, it is definitely going to be a little different, I think, from all the shows, because each show in particular had their own theme, right? WandaVision, I think started the whole speculation bubble, water cooler talk and what have you, and it dealt a lot with the mysticism of Wanda and, the Nexus and what have you like that. Then you had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which later on became Captain America and Winter Soldier, that played more like a spy thriller, espionage kind of buddy cop thing, which played really well. Then you had Loki, which I kind of call like the Euro sci-fi Doctor Who like show, which was really fascinating and played out also really well. Then you have What If, it's just a series of stories and shorts that kind of play along the multiverse that Loki introduced us to, and it's animated, so it's its own different realm. And then now you have Hawkeye. I don't know where they're gonna really go with this, or how the feel of the show is gonna be like, but I'm all in for it. I'm really excited, so I can't wait for that to go down and check it out. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you are gonna change your tunes if you felt underwhelmed by the trailer and what you saw. And I think this show will be quite enjoyable for a lot of you out there. So, but speaking of trailers, we were also blessed with the latest trailer for Nightmare Alley. It's a new movie by Guillermo del Toro, who I am a huge fan of, and he probably has one of the best houses ever. If you ever seen pictures of his house, it's like a freak museum or a museum of mystical doodads or what have you. But he is a director. He is probably one of the best visual directors out there today. His creativity and what he can put on screen and on paper, with his writing and what have you, Can't be denied. I mean, he is really, really blessed with that creativity. I was a huge fan of Shape of Water that came out and won the Oscars that year. I've been a fan of all his movies, you know, Pacific Rim, the Hellboy series, and what have you. Pan's Labyrinth, even though that movie was freaking nutty and most of the time you don't really know what the hell is going on, but you can't deny the fact that visually it was a very stunning movie. Now, this movie, it looks like it takes place at a circus or carnival. It kind of reminds me of Christopher Nolan's Prestige in a way, the look of it. But it stars Bradley Cooper, Rooney Mara, Toni Collette, Kate Blanchett, and William Dafoe. And it looks like William Dafoe is the leader or the main person within this circus, and Bradley Cooper is like a newcomer. And there seems to be a lot of mystery as to Bradley Cooper's character and how it plays out as he joins his group. I don't know if they're carnies or what have you in this circus, but it looks like a giant casting of like awkward Hollywood celebrities, and it looks like they're gonna shine really well in this movie. So they didn't give you a lot. I think a lot of people, including myself, after watching the trailer, we were confused more than anything. But again, I have to say, visually, it looks stunning. So I'm really looking forward to that, and we're getting it in December, so we don't have to wait that long for it. So I'm really, really excited to check out that movie and see what it's all about, because now that September, we are, can you believe that we're already through the halfway mark of September? Once we really get into October, it starts the whole Oscar movie releases. So everyone that's vying for an Oscar position, we're going to see a lot of these movies starting to come out. So I don't know if this is going to fall within the same category as Shape of Water for him, but I think visually, and at least for special visual effects, this could be a contender in that. But who knows, if the movie turns out to be really fascinating, it could end up being another best picture nomination for Del Toro there. So very interested and excited to see what that has to be all about there. So let me know if you guys checked it out, and you know, you could comment in the comment section as to what your thoughts are there. Sticking in the movie world, we have Christopher Nolan striking a huge, massive deal with Universal. Now, it's no stranger that if you follow the space of Hollywood and blockbuster movies and just movies in general, you know, Christopher Nolan was, I don't know if you would call him the evil villain last year as the pandemic started and was really the cause of a lot of things being shut down, including movie theaters. But, you know, he had a movie, Tenet, that he was adamant about releasing in theaters only, and kind of strong-arming Warner Brothers to have them stick to their guns and only release it in theaters. A lot of people were getting really annoyed, including myself, as to, you know, why is he pushing this so hard? You know, does he not care about the audience and the safety of the audience out there just so he could display his genius on screen and make his money and what have you? And, you know, it looks like because of all those events that transpired last year, he had kind of a falling out with Warner Brothers, and now he's signed an exclusive deal with Universal for his next movie and for future deals. And this could change the landscape for a lot of things moving forward if it works out in his benefit. Now, the details of the deal, even though some sources were reporting different things, I think the general gist of it here is that basically, I believe the deal includes 100% total creative control of all of his films, a guaranteed budget of $100 million, plus $100 million in marketing, budget. So that means $200 million will be attached to every film that he makes moving forward. 20% off first dollar gross. So that means all the initial box office returns, he will get 20% of all of that. Plus, Universal can't release any other movies for 3 weeks before or after his movie releases in theaters. So he pretty much owns the Universal slots for whenever his movie's gonna come out for a good month, month and change, month and a half. Plus, his movies can only play in theaters exclusively for 100 days and possibly more before it is allowed to go onto streaming platforms. Now, Universal, they do release a lot of their movies on Peacock. Like we've seen what they've done with Quiet Place 2 and what is being reported about Halloween, the next Halloween iteration there. So they do release their movies after a certain window has expired onto their streaming platform there. So look, you got to give it to Nolan for creating a deal that is so catered to him and what he wants there. Like I said, if this works out, again, we don't know what the state of the world is going to look like next year, the year after. Theaters and cinemas have not fully recovered to the heights of 2019 and prior. We've seen glimpses of hope every now and then, especially during this past summer. And who knows, maybe things will get better during the holidays because we have a lot of big ticket movies coming out like Spider-Man, The Eternals, Dune. So we'll see how that transpires and all that. But huge deal with Christopher Nolan. And I can't hate the guy for, getting Universal to agree with this. Universal is a studio that claims to be probably the second biggest studio house under Warner Brothers as far as theatrical releases are concerned. I believe there was one weekend or 2 weekends in a row this past summer where it was all Universal films for the top 5. So I'm not surprised. And then again, I don't know how this is also going to affect Warner Brothers, because it's been well documented that after this year, Warner Brothers is changing their movie release strategy, and they will not do day and date release of theater and HBO Max. So it's going to be really interesting to see here. But again, massive deal. And if this works out, I don't know if other directors will follow suit with securing themselves these kinds of deals moving forward. Is it going to alienate Christopher Nolan from the rest of Hollywood and audiences in general because of these strong arm tactics? But if you look at how Disney handles their movie business and their relationships with theaters, it's not that any different from what Disney does. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because of the pandemic, Disney had to kind of restructure their release schedules, and we've seen it during the summer when Black Widow came out, Jungle Cruise, Mulan. I think Mulan was last year, but any Disney movie before Shang-Chi, they were releasing it both in cinemas and on Disney Plus. But on Disney Plus, of course, you have to pay an additional $30 for it. And theaters had no choice but to agree with that. Prior to the pandemic, there have been reports that Disney has been strong arming a lot of mom and pop theater chains, and putting these mandates out there. Is like, if you want to carry our movies, you can only carry our movie for the first 2 weeks before allowing a rotation of other studios to come in there. They were demanding more of the box office gross revenue from these theater chains. And of course, like your AMC's, your Regals, they can always take that that hit, because they have multiplexes and more locations, and they have the ability to show more movies and what have you. So if Disney were asking to dedicate their movies to a certain amount of screens, they could easily do that. But for a mom and pop who maybe has 2 screens or maybe one, that can really hurt their overall intake, because to run just one movie for 2 weeks, 3 weeks on your one screen or your 2 screens and not allow any other studio film to be played can really hurt, these type of establishments. And then I found out recently in other countries like Japan, for example, because they were doing the same strategy for Japan as well. They got into kind of a disagreement with Toho Cinemas. Toho Cinemas is one of the biggest theater chains in Japan. And I would consider them to be kind of like the AMC over there. And Toho did not want Disney movies to be played on their streaming service at the same time as releasing it in cinemas. So what they did is just they agreed not to carry any more Disney movies. And so if you are a resident and living in Japan right now and you wanted to watch the latest Disney film, you'd had to go to a smaller chain, which is usually a mom and pop or like maybe a third or fourth tier movie theater chain out there, who they need people to come and watch the movies at their establishment. They need people to come in and support them. So they will bend over backwards for Disney, because everyone knows that no matter what, people will go out and watch a Disney movie, like Cruella and Jungle Cruise and all that stuff, the Marvel films, Star Wars, right? But for those who can't make it to such theaters or who are loyal to Toho Cinemas, they will never be able to see a Disney movie there again. I don't know how long that's going to be, but it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the years to come. But what makes Christopher Nolan's deal with Universal any different than that, right? It's just now it's an individual director who is demanding such things. So really interesting stuff. Again, I would love to see what the backlash is going to be, if any. But yeah, that was something that I found very fascinating this week. Denis Villeneuve, you could add him to the list of Marvel haters out there, along with the likes of Martin Scorsese, and he had some very harsh words about Marvel movies and how they're all copy and paste, and how the audience who goes out there and watches their movies are zombies, and we don't have a brain to think and all that kind of stuff. Look, we can go on and on about Hollywood elite who don't understand, or maybe they're not fans of Marvel films or comic book movies or what have you. I'm pretty sure there's tons of them out there. There's actors who've spoken out about this stuff. But why don't we shift the focus on the reporter? Like, when are we going to stop asking directors about Marvel? I'm pretty sure when a director has agreed to talk to a reporter, in this case Denis Villeneuve, who's promoting Dune, right? And he has to promote it as much as possible because he is very passionate about this movie. He wants to make it a trilogy. A lot of people didn't show up for Blade Runner 2049, even though it was, in my opinion, a brilliantly done movie. Even Arrival. I think more people showed up to watch Arrival because of word of mouth. But he needs to heavily promote his film. I'm sure all he wants to do is really talk about his movie. So why is this reporter asking him about Marvel films? Or what is his thought on Marvel movies and Disney and what have you? And same thing with Martin Scorsese. How many times are reporters going to track him down? And one of the questions they're going to ask him is, hey, Marty, tell me about your thoughts of Marvel. Like, come on. You're going to expect them to, play nice or to not get annoyed by getting those type of questions thrown at them. Why don't we highlight these reporters who ask stupid questions? I've seen so many junkets on YouTube, or I've read them in articles, and some of these questions these reporters have are really stupid. They're just ridiculous. Maybe we should start highlighting these reporters and put a light on them for asking these dumb questions out there. So what? I don't care. I don't care what Denny has to say about Marvel. I like the Marvel movies. A lot of people out there like the Marvel movies. I like his movies. Like I said before, I had issues with Christopher Nolan and how he was handling his business last year. I still went out to watch Tenet. Me and two other guys, we rented a movie theater just for ourselves, just so we could watch Tenet last summer. And, we enjoyed it. And I'm going to be looking forward to his other movies because his movies are way out there and sometimes they really make you think. And I mean, look at his library of movies that he's already made. I mean, a lot of them are really, fan favorites. Inception, the Batman trilogy, especially The Dark Knight. I'm a huge fan of Memento and The Prestige and movies like that. So look, they're gonna say what they're gonna say because they're annoyed or they really have those strong opinions, but who cares? Everyone likes what they like and everyone hates what they hate. So what? Reporters, stop asking stupid questions. That's my take on that. So what have you. So in the category of do we really need it, it was reported this week that there's going to be a twin sequel starring Tracy Morgan. I don't know what the deal is with this. Look, so Twins was a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito that came out in 1988, and it was directed by Ivan Reitman. It was a comedy, of course, about two guys who found out that they were twins. And of course, the absurdity of the movie was that you had Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's this hulking looking dude, and Danny DeVito, who's this little tiny man. And it was funny, and you could get away with that type of comedy in the 80s because the 80s was filled with, some raunchy, but also some very absurd, humor and premises and all that, and we loved it, because that was the 80s. There was a time for that. I don't know if a movie like this can work today. And now it's reported that Tracy Morgan is going to be in this movie, and the premise is that both Schwarzenegger and DeVito find out that they have a third, so they're part of a triplet, and Tracy Morgan is that third. And Ivan Reitman looks like he's attached to direct this movie again too. So, and the name of the movie will be appropriately named Triplets. I don't know, man. I don't know if this is something we need. Knowing myself, again, with my morbid curiosity, I may check this out, but oof. Yeah, is this something we really, really want to see? I don't know, but I thought that was really, really fascinating to read. And it started off a whole thing of things that I started seeing about reboots and what have you, because it was also reported this week that they're rebooting The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys is a cult favorite vampire movie that came out also in the 80s. It starred a lot of famous actors from that era, but now it looks like they're going to be rebooting it with Noah Jupe. I think it's pronounced Jupe or Jupe. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But that he's the boy in Quiet Place, plays the son there of Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. And Jaden Martell, who is one of the young actors from the It movie franchise. So it looks like they're both going to be starring in this reboot. It was reported by The Hollywood Reporter. It's being written by Randy McKinnon and directed by Jonathan Entwistle. McKinnon is currently working on the DC film Static Shock, and Entwistle, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, is known for some of his streaming shows that I Am Not Okay With This and The End of the Effing World. And he's also attached to a Power Rangers remake. Oh. I have fond memories of the original Lost Boys, especially because of Kiefer Sutherland and Corey Feldman, Jamie Gertz. Again, it was another 80s movie that starred prominent 80s actors, and there was a time and place for these movies. And if you're like myself and you grew up in the 80s, we have fond memories of such movies, and these are movies we could watch time and time again, whether or not they hold up. Now, I don't know how they're going to make this reboot of The Lost Boys. Are they going to modernize it for a younger generation? I'm sure they are. But is it going to be like the Twilight series? Are we going to get ridiculous vampires in this? I don't know. It will. We'll see what happens. I'm not looking forward to it. But again, my morbid curiosity. If I see that first trailer, I might change my mind. We'll see. And then lastly, in the Do We Really Need It? And as I brought up before, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now Captain America, Anthony Mackie. It was reported that he is set to lead, and I believe produce as well, a Twisted Metal series. That franchise is very well known for you video gamers out there. It was a very popular video game franchise on the Sony PlayStation and PlayStation 2, and I believe they even had a version that came out on PlayStation 3. And it looks like they have Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who will be penning the premise of the show. It sounds like they're looking for a 30-minute show, 30-minute episodes for this series. And we have a premise here. So let's see. It's supposed to be an action comedy. And let's see, it's supposed to be about a motor-mouthed outsider offered a chance at a better life, but only if he can successfully deliver a mysterious package across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. With the help of a trigger-happy car thief, he'll face savage marauders driving vehicles of destruction and other dangers of the open road, including a deranged clown who drives in an all-too-familiar ice cream truck. Doe is a smart-ass milkman who talks as fast as he drives. With no memory of his past, he gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make his wish of finding community come true, but only if he can survive an onslaught of savage vehicular combat. Now, Sony has been trying really hard to get a Twisted Metal series or movie going for a very long time. But my question is why? For me, it doesn't seem like it would make any sense. The game itself, if you remember, was just carnage, crashing cars into each other and shooting weapons out of your vehicles, and it was like a battle royal. It's one of the first true battle royals that you could play and have fun with your friends playing. I don't know if this is necessary to make any kind of show or movie out of. We saw what happened with Need for Speed. That didn't really work out. So yeah, I mean, Sony has a lot of IPs attached to their brand that would make sense, and they are already working on. I'm really excited to see how Last of Us, the HBO show, is going to turn out. That's something that plays really well to that platform. And then, they also are working on an Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, which could be interesting. But yeah, Twisted Metal, I don't see why there's such huge fascination in trying to get this off the ground there. But I mean, we'll see. Anthony Mackie must have a lot of faith in this to attach himself to this series. So we'll see what happens there. But it's good to see that at least Anthony Mackie is getting more work out there, because I think he is a great actor, great person, very funny guy, for what I've seen. So really interesting to see what happens there. Lastly, on kind of the rundown here before I talk about the main topic I wanted to discuss. So it was also announced, this is more on the business side of things, HBO Max is leaving Amazon channels. So if you're familiar with how Amazon works, through Amazon you could sign up for additional channels like HBO Max, IMDb, AMC Plus, and a lot of these other streaming platforms. If you just didn't want to go through a separate app, you could just do everything through Amazon, and Amazon carries it like as a channel. And a lot of people actually utilize Amazon for this type of streaming service. So with HBO Max leaving, I believe it was estimated that they were going to lose around 8 to 10 million viewers who were watching HBO Max on Amazon. So I'm pretty sure they're doing that on purpose to kind of separate themselves from Amazon Prime and the Prime business, to kind of just be their own standalone. And if you wanted to see HBO Max, you could only go through the HBO Max app. And I'm sure a lot of people would be, kind of angry about this, right? Rightfully so. But to kind of compensate and to offset the loss of the viewers that can't get HBO Max now on Amazon, they are welcoming those viewers and any new or subscribers that already canceled. They're welcoming everyone back to try HBO Max again at 50% off its original price. So basically, they're going to cut their price in half to $7.49 a month for 6 months. So starting from now, and I believe you can sign up for the next week or two only. I think it's only until the end of September. If you sign up now for HBO Max, you could sign up for their special deal of $7.49, which I think is a really sweet deal. And hey, if you want to continue after 6 months, you can do so. And if not, go ahead and cancel. But at least I think from now until the end of the year, this is a huge deal that any movie fan would appreciate and should jump in on, because like I mentioned before, they do still have day and date release movies coming out. So Dune is coming out on HBO Max and theaters, so you could watch Dune in December. Today they released a new Clint Eastwood movie, Cry Macho. We had Malignant that came out last week. And movies like The Suicide Squad also debuted on HBO Max. And of course, HBO has a lot of great TV programming as well. Everyone was going nuts over Mayor of Easttown during the summer. They have this really interesting Spike Lee documentary called Epicenter that I was able to watch. If you wanted to watch something of that subject matter there. And they have other shows that are Scenes from a Marriage that just started that I'm hearing pretty decent stuff about. So, and plus they have their backlog. If you wanted to watch The Many Saints of Newark, that is coming out in October, which is the prequel to The Sopranos, but you've never had a chance to watch The Sopranos, you could watch all 6.5 seasons of The Sopranos on HBO Max. You can watch The Wire. You can go back and watch all of that. HBO offers a lot of great documentaries, a lot of great comedy specials, plus it has a lot of DC stuff there. So if you wanted to watch the Harley Quinn animated series, you could watch it there. They have Zack Snyder's Justice League, you can watch that. Wonder Woman 84, all the DC movies, a lot of the DC programming like Doom Patrol and Teen Titans is there. A lot of Cartoon Network shows you can watch there as well. So I think it's one of the better values right now that I encourage people who are just a little bit curious to jump in on as fast as they can. I'm lucky that I have HBO Max because I'm using my mom's account because she is a subscriber to HBO. But if I didn't, what I would do is I would cancel my subscription and resubscribe at this new deal because it is a good value. So I thought this was interesting. I definitely wanted to talk about that with you guys. So guys, before I get into the big topic of the week, like I mentioned at the top of the show, this is your the Talking Talk Podshowcast. It's a weekly podcast that comes out every a Friday/Saturday, depending on tech issues or anything major news that breaks out on a Friday. But I'm gonna try to aim more for a Friday release here. But you will get it every week. You can watch it on YouTube, and you could listen to it on your podcast platform of choice, primarily iTunes and Spotify. So if you haven't done so already, do hit that like button and subscribe. Leave all your comments in the comment section. I know on Spotify, or at least Anchor, you could leave a voice message question, so I encourage you to do that. And on the podcast platforms, do follow, give a good rating if you're on iTunes. I would really appreciate it. Again, I enjoy doing these shows and having these type of discussions, and I always look forward to having conversations in the comment section with all of you guys. So and also something that I wanted to mention, if you're a New Yorker like myself, and if you're a basketball fan, I am a huge fan of the New York Knicks, unfortunately. And one of the shining moments that happened as a Knicks fan was hearing about the opening of Clyde's Wine and Dine, which is a restaurant run and owned by Clyde Frazier, the very famous New York Knick, one of the Knicks who actually won a championship for the city. But he opened up this basketball-themed restaurant in Manhattan. And as a sports fan, and particularly as a New York Knicks fan, that's a great place to go to watch the game. You can see variations of Clyde's suits that he is very well known for. He does show up on occasion, and he says hi to everyone at their table. They hold fan events there. So I remember going to several fan events there where I got to meet some of the players, and I got to meet some of the Knicks city dancers, which is their version of cheerleaders. You get some prizes and some gifts. They have a half court inside where you could actually shoot ball and play basketball and stuff, which is fascinating. But also the food and desserts were phenomenal, really well done. But they announced earlier this week that because of the pandemic, they are no longer able to reopen, and they have closed permanently. And it's kind of a sad thing to hear any business going out like that because of the events of the world and all that. And there's been a lot of other businesses that had to do the same thing. But Clyde's Wine and Dine was definitely one of my favorites. And I'm sure if you are a New Yorker, you may have heard of it, especially if you're a sports fan or a New York Knicks fan like myself. So I just want to give a quick shout out for that establishment because I have a lot of great memories there. And I'm going to miss that place. So again, if you have a favorite establishment, whether it be a restaurant, brick and mortar store, they need as much help as possible these days. So definitely, show them your love by supporting them. Order food from every now and then, go visit their establishment, show your patronage because they need people like you and I to keep them afloat as they're struggling with their business during this time. So I just wanted to say that. But the main topic I wanted to really talk about here is Hulu debuted 2 shows, one that is returning, and one of them is Why the Last Man. Why the Last Man has been going around Hollywood trying to be pitched as either a movie or TV series for so long. At one point, you had Joseph Gordon-Levitt attached to the project, but Hulu was able to secure the rights, and finally they were able to release the series. The first 3 episodes are now available on Hulu. So if you're not familiar with Why the Last Man, Why the Last Man is a comic book series by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerrera. It came out over 20 years ago, about 20 years ago, believe it or not. And it, tells about a story about this crazy pandemic. Bear with me because you're going to hear a lot of weird similarities to what we're going through now. But this crazy pandemic that wipes out all the males um, on Earth, whether it be human males, animals, from male animals, just all males in general, except for one, Uric. Uric is the last man standing, so to speak, and his monkey ampersand. And basically, it follows the story of them and the rest of the world now being run by females. So, very interesting premise and a very good, very well done comic book series. I highly recommend it to anyone who is looking to start reading something new out there. So, of course, I was really interested and excited to see how it was going to play out in live action. And I think it's better suited for a TV series because you have more freedom to talk about the story, to really flesh out the characters and what have you. So I watched the first 3 episodes and I am intrigued to continue because from what I've seen so far, it's they're sticking pretty close to the comic book and from the original source material. The only thing that I will say is that I do feel the acting is a little rough. Now, the one main actor slash actress that is part of the show right now is Diane Lane. I'm a huge fan of Diane Lane. She is one of the elite actresses out there, and she's doing a really great job. She plays the role of Yorik's mom, who is a senator, and then she later on, at least from what we're seeing right now, takes over the presidency. And her main objective, and again, I'll try my best not to spoil too much here, but obviously she has 2 kids and she is assuming Yorick is dead and she's trying to look for her daughter. Instead, they find Yorick, and then now they're trying to figure out how is it possible that he is the only one that survives. Um, the guy who plays Yorick, again, I'm not too familiar with a lot of these actors, but it's Ben Schnetzer who plays Yorick. And from what I remember in the comics, and I was having a discussion with one of my friends about this week, he's kind of a dick. You know, he's not that really likable. And it was really, really interesting to see it really play out on screen, because even more so, I felt like he was very unlikable and very unhelpful. You know, like he has a one-track mind. And one of the main plots of the comic book was that he's, you know, a down and out on his luck magician, and he proposes to his longtime girlfriend Beth, who did not agree to marry him just yet. This whole thing happens, and the only thing he could think of is to try to find Beth. Doesn't matter what's happening in the rest of the world. That's all he could really think about. And the way it plays out on the show is pretty similar. And it's really hard to like this dude. It really is. At least right now. Again, I haven't read the series in like 20 years. So it's starting to come back to me little by little. But yeah, it is really, really difficult to like this guy. So if it continues this way, and if maybe I'll go back and I'll kind of, you know, go through the comic real quick. But if it continues this way, and it sticks really closely to the source material, then kudos on Ben for portraying this character. But when I mentioned like things like the acting is kind of rough, the one actress I really have a problem with is Ashley Romans, who plays Agent 355. She just doesn't seem like a good actress. Again, I don't know what these people have done before. But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to get into a series when I see such bad acting. But because I do like the story and I am a huge fan of this series, of the comic book series, I'm definitely going to give it a shot. However, I just don't want it to turn into another Walking Dead for me, where I put so much dedication into a series because I just want to like it so much that I am then get stuck watching 3 seasons and not having this series go anywhere and disappointing me more than actually entertaining me. So we'll see what happens. But I've also seen a lot of um, comments on Twitter about how this show is playing on too much on current events and the current state of the world. Like I said, bear with me about the similarities because yes, it's true. There are a lot of similarities. They talk about cancel culture. They talk about, of course, they're going through a pandemic that wipes out a lot of things. There's a moment within the show where people are trying to storm the Capitol and the White House. So people are just thinking that this show is playing on too much on world events. But hey, guys, all this stuff was well established 20 years ago in the original comic book series. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that this story was way ahead of its time. And it is kind of funny how it is being released now when, these things are really happening, so to speak. So it's just really, really interesting there. But the one thing I also did find interesting about the show and how it started was that each main female character in the show had some sort of moment with the opposite sex, whether it was a disagreement, a fond memory, something that they couldn't trust, something that they couldn't get past, right? Or trying to change the culture to, there's this one character in the show that she's trying to fight back against the Me Too movement and kind of put males more into focus and say, let's stop trying to teach our men to not be men. Let's allow them to be men because that is what we want them to be, and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's interesting how every main female character had some interaction, whether it be negative or positive, with opposite sex, and then all of a sudden take that out of the equation because all the males get wiped out of existence. And then now, how are they going to move forward and live with that, right? And it kind of plays out a little bit like Lord of the Flies, so to speak, if you remember that book, and how things play out. But it's really, like I said, it's intriguing, and I'm really, really interested to check it out. And I really hope I didn't spoil a lot for you guys. But if I did, I apologize. But I think even with the things I've mentioned, it's still very well worth watching the show to see for yourself how these storylines are fleshed out and how they play out, and form your own opinion. And let me know what you think about it in the comments when you do. Because again, I do find the show pretty fascinating. I'm happy to see it actually finally coming out. Because like I said, I've been curious to see how this is going to play out. I'm a huge fan of the comics, and so far it looks like they're doing a good job. It also kind of reminds me of 12 Monkeys, which I really love. If you remember that movie 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt, that kind of talks about this weird apocalyptic event that also included a pandemic, so to speak, and kind of had changed how society carried on and all that. It kind of had that vibe for me as well. So maybe that's also why I'm kind of digging it right now. So yeah, so that's Y: The Last Man. And then we got season 2 of Wu-Tang, an American Saga. Wu-Tang, for those of you who know, Wu-Tang is a very prominent rap group that came out in the 90s. And they pretty much spearheaded this new movement of the big groups, right? The big rap groups, the big posse, so to speak. And they kind of revolutionized rap at the time. A lot of hits. I mean, they, some of the members grew up in Brooklyn and Staten Island, and of course they are New York products. So of course I was well aware of them, and I was a huge fan of them. I don't even think it was last year, 2 years ago, Hulu released season one of Wu-Tang, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But my only gripe was that you really didn't get to the point where they really started working together in the studio. You really didn't see them focus on the music. The series or that season focused a lot of all the individuals and their lives prior to everything. So a little bit, not a little bit, but a lot of backstory of the various members of the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, everyone was going off of their street names at the time. And then you got to see, we know him now as RZA, but at the time he was Prince Rakim. How he was the one who had a record deal, and it was very rap poppy, kind of thing. You kind of see him go through all that while everyone else was struggling with their own individual, trying to start their own career or trying to, live their life or, survive the streets and what have you. But with that said, it was very well done. And I don't know how 100% accurate each of the storylines were, but at least it got me to look into more of the backstories of each of these members and understand a little bit more of them. RZA, Method Man, they're all involved in this show, so I'm pretty sure majority of it is pretty accurate or close to as accurate as possible. Now, once the first season ended, we were never told about a second season. In fact, I thought it was canceled at one point because I really wanted them to continue the storyline. And this, once the pandemic started, a lot of series were getting canceled. Some favorites like myself, like Away on Netflix, was canceled because of the pandemic. But we just never heard anything about further adventures of Wu-Tang and An American Saga until like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden I saw news that season 2 of Wu-Tang dropped on Hulu, and you can now watch it. And I was seeing promos the RZA was putting out there on Twitter and all that. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I had no idea as the second season was coming out. It was not marketed, at least not in the circles or channels that I was, aware of or a part of. And it just dropped. So I was pleased. I was really, really happy. So right now, you have the first 4 episodes of season 2 available on Hulu. Every new episode is going to come out on Mondays. Why the Last Man? Every episode is going to be dropping on Wednesdays. So I was able to watch all 4 episodes this past week. And the first episode got me worried because the first episode was kind of more of the same from the first season. And I felt it was a departure of the grittiness of this first season as well, because it was kind of weird. They played a lot with time where you were seeing events later on and then rewinding and then going back and forth. It just, it didn't really gel that well with me. However, once I got past that first episode, episodes 2, 3, and 4 really hit it with me. And now we're getting to the stuff, the good stuff. We're getting now RZA, he wants to be really focused and serious about doing something more with his life instead of, working the streets and music. He's going to focus on music. He is learning that he's going to have to be the leader to put all of these people together, some of which are rivals, from rival gangs. Put this group together to just dominate the rap industry and create a super group, a super rap group. And now you're starting to see the people come up with their names that we know them as, Method Man. We see him writing the lyrics to his very well-known song, Method Man. You see Rakim, or not Rakim, sorry, Raekwon. Yeah, how he's starting to realize, like, I need to change my name to reflect what I believe in right now and what I'm trying to do with myself. Inspect Deck, you could see like he's hanging out with freaking Method Man there. And then we get to see the revelation of RZA and why he chose the name RZA. and he's starting to really corral the members together, and that's pretty much what happens and transpires in the fourth episode, as he's trying to convince everyone that, this is what we're gonna have to do. We can't live our lives on the street and survive for much longer. If we're gonna have to do something for ourselves and survive and benefit ourselves and our family, we're gonna have to do this moving forward, because we can do this. We can dominate. They talk about the West Coast rap scene had Dre and Snoop and Ice Cube are like dominating, and they're talking about their lives on the street and all that, and they're like, why can't we do this? The East Coast has stories to tell too, and we are a part of that. So I'm really digging this second season so far right now, and I'm getting super excited because we're now going to start seeing the formation of Wu-Tang, and putting together their first album and putting their songs out there, and I really cannot wait. If you are a fan of rap and hip-hop, especially from the 90s, and if you are familiar at all with Wu-Tang, you gotta watch this series. It's very well done, very well put together. There was a Wu-Tang documentary that Showtime released almost around the same time season 1 came out, and I have yet to check that out. I should probably go back and watch that because I'm such a huge fan, and maybe that will let me know how well tied into real life the series has been going and keeping to the stories there. So that's Hulu's offerings there. Hulu is releasing good stuff, and it was actually nice to finally watch some TV. I've been watching so many movies lately. It's nice to finally get a chance to catch up a little bit on some of these episodes for the new shows that are coming out. So, but before we end this week's show, as always, every week, I like to talk about the collectible of the week. The collectible of the week is where I highlight more than likely a high-end collectible when it involves pop culture, whether it be an action figure, statue, prop, or whatever it is. And this week I am featuring one of my favorite companies out there, that's Hot Toys. Hot Toys, if you're familiar, they are the leaders of 6-scale posable figures. They definitely fall along the lines of more of the high-end collectibles, but they have a lot of IP properties that they work with. They do a lot of Star Wars figures, they do a lot of Marvel figures, movie franchises and all that. And the new thing that they announced this week that I was extremely excited for was they are continuing their Back to the Future line that they kind of started a little whiles ago, and they're finally releasing 6-scale versions of Marty and Doc Brown, but in the Old West, as we've seen them in Back to the Future 3. And as we're looking at Marty McFly here, he has his poncho and his hat and his trusty revolver, and it just looks so well done. I mean, it really looks like they captured the likeness from the movie. Michael J. Fox in his best. He even has his frisbee pie pan that was made famous in the movie. But the details, again, the one great thing about Hot Toys that I love is the attention to detail, and the cloth that they use for the clothing, the fabric, the intricate details of the face. I mean, it's just so well done, and they're having them pose with the DeLorean that was kind of remade to try to work during this era of the movie franchise. So I don't know if they're going to be planning to release that version of the DeLorean. They released a previous version of the original DeLorean years ago. So it'll be interesting if they do that. Let's look at Doc Brown right here. Doc Brown with his custom-made rifle with the super scope. But again, attention to detail, the outfits that they wore during the dance, the reveal party of the clock tower, which again is very, very heavily tied to all three movies. But it's so well done. I kind of wish the hair was more real, but I don't ding any points from them. to make it more of like the vinyl, rubber, plastic, or what have you, to kind of keep and maintain that look that they're trying to achieve there. So not too big of a flaw there, but again, the details here are phenomenal, and I'm so super excited for these to come out. Now, like I said, they are a little bit on the high end when it comes to collectibles there. So each figure will cost you $270. And here in the United States, you can pre-order them through sideshow.com. The great thing about Sideshow, if you are not aware, is that they do have monthly installment plans, and you could choose what kind of plan you want, and you can pay monthly for these figures. And if a figure is slated to come out much later on in the future, these figures, they look like they're planning to be released in 2023. So you could put a deposit of, I believe it's $20, and then you can pay monthly closer to that release date. So they won't be asking you for payments probably until November of next year. So if you just wanted to secure your line to reserve yourself one of these figures and then just worry about monthly payments later on, you can do that very easily on Sideshow. So that is the collectible of the week, and that is the show for this week. So again, thank you guys for your support, and thank you for tuning in, whether it be on YouTube or on podcast form. Like always, like, subscribe, comments, leave your comments, feedback in the comment section, again on podcast form. Thank you for listening. Do check out the episodes every week. There will be other shows that drop, and also some of the YouTube videos that I do release, I do create audio versions of them and upload them onto the podcast channel, so do check them out. Make sure to follow and leave a good rating on iTunes, and I will catch you all next time. So until then, stay cool, stay classy, and stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch all of you guys next week. Bye.